everyone. It's Morgan and Angie with The Shift from People Pleasing to Living and Loving Fully. Today, we are going to be talking about perfectionism and how that ties into people pleasing. Before we get into that, I just want to let you guys know that we are doing a live online masterclass October 16th at 3 p.m. Central Time, and it will be interactive, so we'll be there talking to you guys. It's going to be about how people-pleasing shows up in your romantic relationship. So we'll be there talking about how that is, getting examples from you guys, and giving you guys tips on how to help break some of those people-pleasing habits so that you can live and love more fully in your life. Awesome. So today we just wanted to talk a little bit about perfectionism, and I'll just start us off a little bit because I feel like I grew up kind of in my mind feeling like I was running on the fear of failure all the time. And that's from that perfectionism, that need for everything to be perfect and to have success and everything to be good and presentable to everyone. And I feel like, oh my gosh, how exhausting it was running on the fear of failure, like just trying to like function my life around that. It was just toxic and so difficult. And I was just constantly afraid of like what other people would think of me. I was constantly afraid of failing. Like in middle school, I don't know if I told you about this, Angie, when I was in, I think, 7th grade, I got my first ever B, and it was a B plus. And I sobbed. I was
Wow.
it was such a big failure in my mind. And you know, to compare to, you know, more of where I was at now when I was in college, and in 2016 I graduated. One of my last classes I took was a differential equations class my senior year, and I barely passed with a C, and I was like, yeah, I passed. So college helped break me a little bit at the perfectionism, at least when it came to grades and stuff. So anyway.
I love that story. I'd like to share a story regarding grades. This is around that topic. Mine was a little different path. Up until 8th grade, like I really wasn't all that concerned about my grades. I got A's and B's and maybe an occasional C, and I really didn't give it much thought. And then my dad challenged me when I was in the 8th grade to make straight A's and not make an A minus, but straight A's the entire year. So it was the beginning of my 8th grade year. And I just remember challenge on, you know, and I wanted that challenge. And so I actually did it, and I made straight A's, and he gave me $500. This is a story that I've shared before. But that was the beginning of my perfectionism career. It really was. And it also taught me that perfectionism is about conditionally loving, you know, because I felt like, oh, well, my dad doesn't love me just for how I am. He needs me to perform. He needs me to do well in order to be lovable. So that really got me on that track. And I did. I made straight A's, and then I graduated when I was 16. So I graduated really early from high school, and so I had that ambition thing going on. And then so I was motivated by money initially, but also motivated by my dad's approval at the same time. So it was a double whammy. When I got to college, I remember again I was making straight A's, and I got to my junior year in college, and I took this one accounting course because I got a degree in accounting, and it was so hard. And I got a C in that class. Oh, talk about beating myself up for that. Wow. It was really hard. And you know, I still have a love of knowledge, and so I'm always seeking things, but that's a whole other discussion. Like, you know, the answers really do lie within us right now. And so but that's I don't really think that that's perfectionism, you know. Seeking knowledge outside of ourselves and seeking validation outside of ourselves, I think that's, well, it's related. I think it is tied in there somehow. But any thoughts on that, Morgan?
I think with perfectionism and people pleasing, it comes back to this core thought that like, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not smart enough. Like it's all like an insecurity. It's all like both are, I think, are a symptom of a deeper insecurity. I'll say that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I didn't realize it, of course, when I was growing up, that I had this deep insecurity. And then I went into accounting, which really wasn't my love. But I thought, well, I'm good with numbers and I'm, good at math. And so I thought it's safe. Accounting is safe. It's the black and the white, and, debits equal credits and all this. And
Yeah.
so I went into accounting and I got a CPA. I studied my butt off to take that test, and I passed it on my first attempt, which was a big accomplishment. I was really proud of that. But then I went into public accounting, where they really have this view of sink or swim, and I stunk. And I just remember my very first job out of college was in a public accounting firm, and I just felt so I felt like such a failure, when I lost my first job because they let me go after tax season. I was fired basically after tax season. And it really shook my worth to a core, to my core. And so then I'm trying to condense this story. I went out, I was looking for a headhunter who found me a job. Again, this time I went to another CPA firm because I was a CPA. I'm like, I need to practice this to get good at it. And I didn't really love it. But anyway, so I went to my second CPA firm, and this time it was a much smaller firm, and not, again, the right fit for me, because I was seeking something outside of myself. I think this is an important story, and I never even thought about it until just now. Well, guess what happened? The end of tax season, I was let go again. Fired second time. I don't even think I've shared all this with you, Morgan.
No.
And so I was devastated, but not as much as the first time, because I don't know why. Maybe I was getting used to failing.
Right.
So then I hired another headhunter, and this time I thought, I do not want to go back into public accounting. It must be public accounting, right? So I was looking in industry. So this is like corporate America and that kind of thing, other than the big CPA firms. Yeah. And so, but my experience was in public accounting. So on this third attempt, I remember going in for an interview at a CPA firm, which I did not want the job. Okay, I did not want it. So I wore a hat to make, I don't know, I felt rebellious. Like, I don't really want this job, but I'll go in anyway. Because the industry they weren't doing interviews for me, right? So I went into this third accounting firm, and I just remember feeling pretty confident, because I'm like, I'm confident I don't want this job. And so, what do you think happened?
Of course, you got hired.
I got hired, right? And this time was different. I went in more with the attitude of, you know what? Like, I want to make sure that this firm's a good fit for me, and that they're not the kind of firm that doesn't believe in mentorship, and that they're just going to have you sink or swim. And so I went in more with listening to my needs instead of trying to please somebody.
Right.
And it really turned out well. And I ended up getting promoted and so forth. And I was there for 3 years. And I left of my own accord because I was hired by one of my clients to be their controller. And that's how I met my husband, Steve. I went to the job where we met. So yeah, it all worked out. But I was really very much into that people pleasing track and that perfectionist track. But I broke that cycle, and that's kind of what happened. And I was true to myself.
That is like a perfect story. Like, and it was cool, like how, like you saw, like, wait a second, maybe this isn't just about what can I do for the company. Is this company even what I want? Like, does this, because what are we doing if we're living a life in a job that's so miserable that like, is it really worth it? Even if the pay is good, is it worth it if you're miserable all the time and you're scared all the time? No. So I think
I was miserable. I was so miserable. because
Right.
I felt like I was being judged. And whenever we're driven by perfectionism, what happens is we often have performance anxiety. And I had such a deep insecurity, and it was becoming clear, like, I'm smart. I passed the CPA on the first try. And it's harder than the bar exam, just so you know. It's a tough exam. And I'm like, I knew I was smart, but why was I like becoming a puddle when it came to being under pressure? And I couldn't function, and I would feel that insecurity, and it was really being driven by perfectionism.
Absolutely. I was going to point that out because in your story growing up, feeling like all of this acceptance and stuff was conditional, like that's so much pressure. Like that's so
Right.
much pressure in a job or with family, like so much pressure to put on yourself that of course you couldn't function because you thought I'm sinking or I'm swimming, like, and when it's all or nothing like that, how can your brain like function? So it totally makes sense. Like, and
Yeah.
I love that example. I just have to comment too that I think it's so funny that both of us went into math related
I
degree.
know.
Like how, like you said, there was a safety in the numbers. It was a security thing. Like I feel like because I was like I didn't know what to trust, but like numbers, like I could trust numbers. Like I could crunch numbers. Like I just think that's funny. Like that we have that in common, and now we're both like coaching people and stuff. So I just think it's so funny. Yes. So I was doing a little research and I found some really cool quotes about perfectionism, and I wanted to share those with you guys. Um, so this first one says perfectionism, and this was from an article on Psychology Today.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectionism Perfectionism turns your life into an endless report card on accomplishments or looks. It is a fast and enduring track to unhappiness. What makes perfectionism so toxic is that while those in its grip desire success, they are most focused on avoiding failure. So they have a negative orientation. I just love that quote so much. Like I don't even like it. It's so true. Like because in my mind growing up, I thought perfectionism really only applied to like homework and like um yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Like I thought it only really applied academically. I didn't realize how rampant the perfectionism was in my life in all areas, like with my relationships and with the way my house looks, with the way I dress, with the, it's everything, it's not just your actual report card. Everything becomes a report card.
Oh, I like that. I'm taking notes.
The next quote I really liked that I found on perfectionism, and I don't remember where I found this, sorry. It says, perfectionism is an abstraction, an impossibility in reality, and often leads to procrastination. Now, that's so
Mm,
true because if you think about this, what happens is it's all or nothing. Like, we feel
right.
so bad about ourselves if something is done halfway that we would rather do nothing at all than do it halfway, because if we do it halfway, we're gonna beat the shit out of ourselves. We're
Right.
gonna, and we're gonna feel so bad about performing so poorly. And so recognizing that rationally can help us remember, wait a second, who am I trying to prove to right now? And is that really necessary?
Very true. And I have to give ourselves a pat on the back, Morgan, because I feel like with our endeavor, our collaboration together, that we are not being perfectionists about this at all. I feel like we're doing a great job of implementing imperfectly and not. And I think the reason that we're able to do that, and just we're trusting ourselves that, like, so guys, just so you know, what we do before we get on a call, we take literally probably 1 minute, 2 minutes to get centered and to do our little tapping and to connect in with whatever that higher wisdom source, whatever you want to call it. And then we're just like, okay, we know our topic, so we just kind of go with it. Like, this is not scripted. If it were, I think we would be more, I don't know, perfectionistic about it, and we'd be more
Right.
tight and less flexible, and it wouldn't be as fun. So we know our stuff anyway. So we don't have to rehearse this.
Yes. Well, it just speaks to where, I mean, how far we've both come in our journeys, because perfectionism was driving a lot in our lives. And now we're realizing it doesn't matter. And how good that feels, like how good it feels to feel like, you know what? It's okay. Like, it's okay
Right.
if this is not perfect. That's a beautiful feeling. And I have worked hard to get to that point. So, yes, pat on the back. The next quote I wanted to read about perfectionism, I love this. It says, perfectionism is self-abuse of the highest degree. And I love that so much, because it, like, if you really think about what perfectionism is, it's that voice in your head that says no matter what you do, it will never be good enough. And how
Right.
self-destructive is that? Like, how could anyone function in that kind of environment? How could you make any steps forward in your life when that's the voice that's in your head? I mean, just like, it's so true how self-abusive that is.
Very much. And I love that quote. I've heard that one before. The one before that you read about, something about looks was in there,
Yeah.
about good looks or whatever it was. It just occurred to me that as women, so often are the standards that we have for body and what we should look like and all of this, it really is the way to control us, keep us confined, and keep us from speaking out. So perfectionism is a really subtle and destructive thing that just doesn't allow us to shine. And it's like, if we believe that our bodies, I'll just give you an example. Like if we think that our bodies is a measure of our worth, which, let's face it, a lot of us do, and I do to some extent as well, that we won't want to get up on a stage in front of a platform and talk to people about our message. We
Yeah.
will hide, we will shirk, and we will stay back. And or if we're in a boardroom, if we're in corporate America and we're surrounded by, let's face it, a lot of the executives, the upper executives are men. So we won't speak up. We won't say anything because we're thinking this is subconscious, but like my body isn't, I'm not good enough. Like I don't present the perfect image of the put together woman, you know? And it really holds us back.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So I just think, I mean, how important it is to really recognize the perfectionism in our lives and then start to change that. And I mean, really ask yourself, like, why? I mean, who am I trying to prove myself to?
Mhm.
And whoever it is, like, if there's someone who's not going to accept you being a certain way, then they don't deserve to have you in their life anyway, you know? Like, you deserve to
Right.
be accepted with your flaws, because we all have flaws. We can't wait to be perfect before we're acceptable to people, because we're never going to be perfect, but we're always trying to be
Right.
better. And I think that in itself is a really good sign that we're good people trying to do good things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it shows up everywhere, doesn't it? I mean, it really does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, this has been super fun. Do you have any other thoughts before we close this down?
Just a thought maybe for you to ask yourself, how is perfectionism keeping me stuck? How is it keeping me from expressing myself fully? How is it leveraging me how is it controlling me? Because it's controlling you. It's controlled me, it's controlled Morgan, and rest assured that it is. And so just food for thought, perhaps do some journaling around it. And it ties in with people pleasing as well, because we want to convey that image that we're all put together, that we're perfect. Because as long as we can convey that image of perfectionism, and it's like, what do we call it? Not the sibling, the conjoined twin to people pleasing. Perfectionism is the conjoined twin to people pleasing. They go hand in hand. So we're having a class coming up October 16th, 3 o'clock Central, 3 to 4:30 Central Time, that is going to address how people pleasing shows up in your romantic lives. And we would love for you to join us because it's going to be very insightful. It's going to be very interactive. And it's building awareness so that you can do something different and live and love fully.
Perfect. And we will have a link in the description below. You can register for that for free. We're really looking forward to it. We just did one of these a couple weeks ago and it was amazing. I mean, the amount of vulnerability shared and the amount of answers and support and everything, it was amazing. So we loved it. We're excited to do another one. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video with us today. Please comment below your thoughts about perfectionism in your life and how that shows up and what you do in order to get around it and to improve. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. We will see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Bye.